Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Today. As promised, we're back to discuss the Indian football match that took place just now, and in fact, unfortunately, ended in a very bad 3-0 loss for the Indian team. Now, again, going into this match, we knew that Vietnam would present a tough challenge. But I think if you had to watch the match and you were looking at some sort of signs for something positive, unfortunately you didn't actually get much in that regard. At least the first half was still better off. The second half saw total implosion take place, and unfortunately, if you're an Indian football fan, it's hardly the kind of match that gives you a lot of confidence in where it is that the team are heading right now. Now, again, as I said, we knew that Vietnam would be a tough opposition. We also knew that they'd probably be starting this match favourites. But what we did expect after that was that the Indian team would maybe put up some sort of fight. Maybe they'd show a little bit of spirit, nick a goal here or there. International football and football in general is a strange game in the sense that you don't need to be the favourites on the day to actually emerge victorious. You need a good game plan. Unfortunately, whatever game plan it was that India had, they kind of ended up shooting themselves in the foot more often than not. And what makes things worse was that this entire defeat was in many ways self-inflicted. The first goal came due to a breakdown in, of course, conversation between the two defenders. Now, they did actually, there was a miscommunication in terms of who should mark whom. By the time that was sorted, Vietnam were through into the goal, and that's it. 1-0, 10 minutes done. Second goal was in fact even more comical because despite the fact that there was acres of space behind them, a defender chose that very moment to let a ball go in, slipped, the forward went through, and that was it. 2-0 lead. And then to compound India's misery, there was another goal scored by the same forward who scored the second goal, by the way. And that was it. That was all she wrote for the Indian team. Unfortunately, as I said, it was a defeat that was very much self-inflicted. It wasn't the kind of match that you would have been expecting to see. But of course, there are mitigating circumstances to be put in play here. Unfortunately, I don't think India were playing with anything close to their full-strength team. But it is worth noting that even playing with the full strength team would not have actually prevented them from losing this match, considering there were so many individual errors and there were so many misplaced passes. And it's one thing to be defensively poor, but you will take a team being defensively poor if they show some promise going forward. Similarly, you'll take your team being a little less enterprising in attack if they are solid defensively. At this point, India are not very good going forward, and defensively they tend to leak goals. So again, a lot of question marks if you're eager to match the Indian football team coach, because you don't want a case where, as I said, the Indian team doesn't really look very confident. They kind of were meek, except for maybe the first few parts of the first half, where they did tend to grow into the game. They had a couple of good chances. AajTak got a good chance. Chetri got a good chance. Unfortunately, neither of them converted. Not that it would have made that much of a difference to the scoreline, but again, if you go into halftime 1-1 or even 2-1 as opposed to going down 1-0, then the game takes on a very different complexion, because then Vietnam became the hunting team. Unfortunately, in this case, India were consistently hunted down, despite the fact that Vietnam weren't really posing that much of a threat going forward. So again, as I said, it's an unfortunate loss for India, and it actually, the fact is this team were good enough to qualify for the AFC Asian Cup, and many people thought that now with, of course, these breaks taking place, international breaks taking place, would be a good time for Stimash to fine-tune his team and actually get them in a good shape, potentially to try and make it out of that group in the AFC Asian Cup when the tournament takes place next year. Now, unfortunately, as I said, we didn't really see any signs of that. As I said, normally you'll take a team if you're good going forward, if you're a little leaky in the back. Similarly, you'll take a team being a little average going forward, not scoring as many goals, if they have a solid rear guard. With India, you have a leaky rear guard and an inconsistent forward line. So again, that doesn't really give the coach too many options in terms of, at this point, personnel doesn't matter. I think systematically, the Indian team were poor, and it didn't really give off a very good look this entire match. They looked listless, the Indian team, for the most part. And Vietnam ran out deserving 3-0 winners, despite the fact that I don't even think they were playing at full tilt. So plenty of question marks, obviously, for the Indian football team. Do I think Stimac was getting the sack or anything of that sort? No, probably not. But it's pretty clear that there needs to be some sort of change that comes up. I mean, you could argue that maybe, just maybe, the Indians were undercooked because, there's only really been one major tournament that's going on in recent times, and that was, of course, the Durand Cup. Beyond that, there weren't even, they weren't even actually having any sort of, they didn't really look match fit. they haven't been playing the league, and in fact, you'd know for a fact that the ISL is only set to start in the beginning of next month, so it's still some ways away. Match fitness is definitely an issue, but I think even beyond that, I think there are definite question marks that are being raised over what exactly are the team's plans in terms of how it is they'll go forward. I don't really know how exactly that's going to be resolved anytime soon. I think if you're a Stimatch, you hope that the players get match fit in the league, and then you can, of course, put out better performances and have your best players fit. That would be the only hope, because as I'm seeing some people mention in the comments, Vignesh Sonar says that Stimatch needs to go. I don't think he's going to be sacked before the tournament, but I do think that if he has a poor showing in the AFC Asian Cup, then he might not get another contract extension. That seems more likely to happen. And to answer your question, yes, Sawan Cyclone, I remember you. Nice to see you on the live videos again. And anyway, I think we can bring this particular live session to an end. There wasn't really much to talk about from an Indian perspective, or at least I should correct myself. There wasn't too much good in terms of, whether or not you can. There's nothing good to talk about in terms of what happened in this match. So, I mean, now that's it, unfortunately, for the international cycle for a little while. But we will be back, of course, bringing you more updates from the world of sport and Indian football and football in general. So thank you all so much for joining us again. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And last but not least, download the SportsTech app. Thank you all so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.